Revelation 1002. From the 11th of July 1939. Unbelief causes world events. Grace period. Frame. Never before has the misery on earth been so great, that the eternal divinity saw himself prompted to intervene by force to such an extent that unimaginable earth-related misery is destined for mankind. The more faithlessly mankind walks its ways, the harder it will be hit by those measures, because only this faithlessness is the cause of all suffering, since this is the last option to still influence people in a certain way educationally. Where one passes by all suffering and misfortune even with closed eyes without thinking of the Lord, there every help for the soul is impossible. Only the deepest loneliness and abandonment lets man recognize that any other purpose is the reason for his existence on earth, and only then the train of thought is directed correctly when man strives to fulfill his purpose on earth. What moved his mind before is earthly and therefore completely useless. Only in this state of cognition is the direct influence of spiritual power recognizable insofar that now everything gains form and life, which up to now touched man only dimly in thought. But at times of deepest unbelief, men's mind is much more inclined to find pleasure in superficial, unimportant things, and always endeavors to utilize the short time on earth, as earthly as possible, but to reject all spiritual thoughts, and therefore the spiritual powers have little influence on such people. Where now all effort of this remains unsuccessful, where man stands completely outside of spiritual activity, it is now commanded to apply means, which certainly entail unspeakable misery, however which are not completely unsuccessful, and so the events on earth will increase from day to day, which visibly show the transitoriness of earthly goods as well as of the bodily life. The way which they have to go is shown to the people continuously, but this way will not appear to be passable to them, because they just do not want to believe. They will oppose every natural disaster and also all other events again and again with their wise reasons and objections, but never want to recognize the admonitions and warnings of the eternal deity. And the strangest events are, according to their opinion, quite self-evident phenomena, explainable with the forces of nature, to which no extraordinary meaning is to be attached. A frequent repetition of such events will only result in mankind getting used to them and becoming more and more indifferent towards them, and the inevitable consequence of this is that the eternal deity will now give people correspondingly more powerful signs of his omnipotence and work, so that even the weak in faith, not completely hardened people, will recognize this as a mission from above and save their souls before it is too late. Such signs must indeed always be sent to man within the framework of natural possibilities, in order not to inevitably influence his will, but the enormous extents of these signs will nevertheless cause so many people to think. And even those who until then had been purely scientific, will be perplexed when they realize that their research and results do not stand up and all earthly calculations will become invalid in view of such events which intervene in earthly life in a disturbing and devastating way. Because the work of the Lord will appear everywhere. The extraordinariness of his work will be noticed by all people, yet not recognized as such. People will search too much for an explanation which corresponds to their thinking and will, and nevertheless also recognize the insufficiency of their knowledge. Their doubting will truly be a blessing for them, since it is the beginning of faith, because he who is not afraid to admit that his knowledge is not sufficient for an explanation, will involuntarily seek to find an explanation in a spiritual way and will then no longer be left in ignorance or doubt, because he is seeking the truth and has therefore already come very close to the right way. If he then only pays attention to the stirring of his heart, he will soon come to the right knowledge, and this will benefit his soul. a short reprieve is still granted to mankind, and still the day will dawn very soon, when death will hold a great harvest, and blessed are those who pays attention to all signs and does not become sluggish to work on his soul. For God seeks out everyone, and also the great coming event is again only a proof of God's infinite love, which is meant for all creatures on earth and therefore leaves nothing undone to save these creatures from dire misery of the soul. Amen.